Listen to this track, bitch.
I've had a lot of time to think about Sword and Shield's expansion pass, as if it wasn't obvious. Contemplating its existence, mentally tallying the pros and cons, and sometimes wondering why I was so optimistic about it in my last video. At long last, I finally have enough content to slap together a video for it. In my opinion, can best be summed up as... I'm shrugging my shoulders with that you just can't see it. My opinion towards the expansion pass got less optimistic the further out we got from Sword and Shield sucks, pretty much. It became less of, wow, they fixed the problem, to, why couldn't we have just gotten more content in the base game? They're selling us shit we used to get in the post-game. Which seems to be the general consensus among many of my remarkably intelligent and clever YouTube comments. Okay, look, not to start off this video with me defending myself, but my basic outlook was, it could have been a lot worse. Which is true. But it could have been a hell of a lot better too. It's gotten to the point where I pretty much want to throw the last 5 minutes of Sword and Shield sucks in the trash. I wasn't even gonna buy the expansion pass. I was just gonna watch a few playthroughs and articles, gather my thoughts, do all my research, and fucking put out a video for it, but then I bought them anyway, because I'm fucking stupid. But hey, that means you guys get a much more comprehensive first-hand account now that I dropped 30 bucks on my extra 10 days of YouTube clout, which would probably be the case if I actually finished either of the expansion passes and didn't get bored halfway through. Fuck it, this is the best I can offer. I'll be looking at both Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra separately in this video. And I'm not going to structure it like I do my other Pokemon videos where I talk about each aspect, like graphics or music, separately. Because for a lot of it, I'm pretty much going to have the same opinion towards it as I did with Sword and Shield, because it's the same game, same engine and everything. And at the end, I'll offer a much more refined opinion on Pokemon DLC and what I'd like to see going forward. So, let's get started with the Isle of Armor. The Isle of Armor fucking sucks. It's easily the worst of the two DLCs from a content standpoint. Let me frame it this way. Consider the purpose of the expansion pass as a whole. What was it intended to add? New content such as extra Pokemon, new Pokemon and Legends, more story, returning Pokemon, and other small bits of content like items or services. Isle of Armor has all these things, but they're much less prevalent or enjoyable than Crown Tundra's editions, in my opinion. I think one of the biggest selling points was, whoa, we've got some of the National Dexmon back. Super cool. Personally, I didn't give a shit about that. Like, it's cool to see them again, and it's nice that they're quote-unquote fixing this, I guess. I didn't have any reason to bother trying to catch them or fill my Isle of Armor Pokedex to get some useless item. I think the thing was, with more National Dexmon being added, people were more excited to transfer up Pokemon from past games with Pokemon Home, which is 15 bucks a year for some reason, rather than catch Klefki again. I could be totally wrong though, that's just what I've seen. And the story is lame as shit! Honestly, I got so much backlash for saying that Sword and Shield's story was okay that I sort of lost the ability to properly enjoy or analyze most of what happens in these DLCs story-wise. I mean, it was there, it existed, definitely felt like it was in the same vein as the rest of Sword and Shield. There wasn't any, like, specific thing that made it bad, it's just lame. Like, it's sort of like the post-game, I guess, in the sense that it's just meaningless fetch quests. Go here, collect mushrooms, get cub food, fight Avery again, listen to the worst battle theme in history, regret not buying Sword instead. Take cub food to Five Guys and get him a milkshake. Go into that one tower from that one episode of SpongeBob with only cub food. That's where I stopped caring. You mean to tell me that all this story build-up and practically everything else in this expansion leads to one Urshifu? As in that's pretty much it other than some minor items and max forms? Who gives a rat's ass about Urshifu? I mean, yeah, but you get what I mean, the shit isn't worth $15. Knowing that literally one legendary is the most this DLC has to offer really did it in for me. I mean, sure, there are other things that I think are fine. The new wild area actually sort of grew on me. It offered more diversity than the base wild area in terms of both Pokemon and atmosphere, and it helped me fill out my base Pokedex with Mon like Gigalith that were a pain in the ass to get in the base game. I tried for about a month to get the shiny charm and failed. I was really bored. And I gave max raid battles another go and I didn't have a horrible time. I don't think I can chalk that up to the DLC specifically, but still. It gave me the opportunity to give it another try because I never really touched it beforehand, and even though the online matchmaking was horrible, those aren't really faults or perks of the DLC itself. But other stuff like more Gigantamax forms and collecting Diglett didn't interest me at all, and I was too lazy to get into whatever the hell the Cram-O-Matic is. I mean, it looks cool, I just haven't had time. I'm gonna chalk those down to being me problems, though. You could get more out of it, maybe. I don't know you, I don't know. Oh, there's one more feature in particular that really disappointed me that I'd like to shoehorn in. Follow Pokemon, dude! Oh my god, everybody loves follow Pokemon. Okay, Gonta Supreme, let's go! What the fuck is even going on here? It's like every Pokemon has its own completely arbitrary running speed. Sure, it kind of makes sense to at least try and make it realistic or tie it into their normal overworld speed, which I'm pretty sure is what it actually is. So that way Slowpoke isn't hauling ass behind you when you're on the bike. But what the fuck? Half of my team is so slow that they're just constantly teleporting behind me, and the other half runs faster than I do and are just stopping and going because of it. What pisses me off more is that they got this right in Let's Go, more or less. It works. This should have been incredibly easy not to fuck up, but they did it anyways against all odds. So, yeah, that's all I have to say. Isle of Armor acted as a nice way to hop back into Sword and Shield, but I didn't really get all that much out of it. That's really the nicest thing I can say about it. And that's it for Isle of Armor. Wow, that was really short, holy shit. Okay, moving on to Crown Tundra. This one is okay. I definitely got more enjoyment out of it than Isle of Armor for several reasons. I mean, there's so much more that it offers. And, you know, like I said, I haven't played it 100% of the way through. I'm still waiting on catching the legendary birds for when I have time to get back into competitive. Overall, it just feels a lot more well-rounded and fulfilling than Isle of Armor did. There isn't really as much of a story or solid structure of events as there were in Isle of Armor, which I'm not complaining at all. As I mentioned, I really hate how bare bones that shit is. Meet, reskin Rose, have 20 minutes of exploration, then go nuts, do whatever the fuck you want. New legendaries? Hell yeah. New regional legendaries? Fuck yeah. Horsey? Double fuck yeah. Necrozma? I didn't get that far. Yeah, I guess, who cares? If I had one critique of Crown Tundra, it would be that it feels like one big giveaway at times. I mean, it makes up for Isle of Armor's lack of interesting content by dumping a fuck ton of legendaries and other mon on you all at once, sometimes quite literally. Is that an issue? I think it depends on who you ask. I don't mind, personally, because like I said, I've been trying to get back into competitive, and now they're like, whoa, there's so much new stuff. So I think it's cool, but I mean, I can see how some people would think it's a problem. And I've only really scratched the surface of Dynamax Adventures, but literally being given a free Suicune isn't something I can really complain about. I think out of everything in the DLC as a whole, this is the best feature right here. It seems like a good time, and there's enough strategy and other stuff for it to be entertaining. Plus, it doesn't straight up shower you in infinite Mewtwo's or whatever the fuck either. I mean, it seems fun. I kinda like it. If I wasn't so busy trying to get out of Green Rink and Tekken, please do not laugh at me, this would be something I'd have a good time doing with friends every now and again. Overall, I can say I had a decent time playing Crown Tundra, and it's definitely the part of the expansion pass that I won't detest playing the rest of the way through. Once I get out of Green Rink, that is. And that's it. My review can be summed up as, sure, it's fine. I guess it's worth my money, it's okay. But you know what I'm realizing now that this part of my script is done? I feel like I didn't say a whole lot. And what I did say was pretty wishy-washy. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from this whole script, because a lot of it was admitting that the DLC's experience will be subjective depending on who you're asking. I think the enjoyment you get out of the expansion pass is the same that you got out of Sword and Shield, in case that wasn't obvious. If you like the new locales, Pokemon, and characters of Sword and Shield, then you'll probably enjoy the expansion pass and get a lot out of it. If you're part of the crowd that hated Sword and Shield and thinks everyone involved in its development should be deemed enemies of the state, maybe don't buy it, because there's nothing in there for you. But let's rewind for a second. Do you know why I was so optimistic over the expansion pass being good? Because the expansion pass is exactly what these games needed. More content, returning content, more longevity for Gen 8 in general. A reason to take another look at it. Sure, I already said I regretted praising it in the last video. There's only like one DLC I've ever played through in my life that I'd consider to be better than its base material. Maybe two if I can bring myself to check out Dishonored again. But in hindsight, there is no way that the expansion pass was going to quote-unquote save these games. There's no way they'd be heralded as 10 out of 10 or necessary to enjoy the games, considering how much backlash Sword and Shield got. If the expansion pass was totally awful, the angry hordes of people on Twitter who were still in the official Pokemon Twitter's replies would be going, wow, this fucking blows. Why would anyone spend money on this? More proof that Pokemon sucks now, we need a new developer. But if the expansion pass was a 10 out of 10, they'd still be angry. Wow, we have to pay an extra $30 just for this game to be good? Talk about a scam. We could have had this in our base $60 game. We need a new developer. The biggest problem with the Sword and Shield expansion pass is this right here. The games that are required to play them. And the biggest reason I was excited for them was because it could have been a lot worse. And with that thought, I'm gonna shift gears here. Let's look to the future. Again, let's talk third games. So I'm using the term third game as my own definition for this sort of thing, because describing these as solitary versions or upper versions, like Bulbapedia does, just doesn't make any sense. Of course, I'm referring to the pseudo-remakes released in the same generation as the game they're remaking. Yellow, Emerald, Ultra Sun and Moon, you know what I'm talking about. Basically, the same games at full price but with added bells and whistles, new features, new Pokemon and events, etc. These have been in every generation except Gen 6, which wasn't worth the hassle, I guess. I'm not complaining, even though I kinda want to. If you've watched my other videos, you know I love Platinum. You know that Black and White 2 are pretty close to being my favorite games. But this system of re-releasing games that just released, it's not sustainable is the word I guess I would use. Like, for example, you already know my thoughts on Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. It didn't have enough new changes or defining features to be acknowledged as an improvement over Sun and Moon that was worth the $40. And I sort of think the same goes for some of these as well. And when I say stuff like that, I ask myself, if I had the same propensity for internet humor and quote-unquote video editing skills as I did when I was 10, would I be making videos saying how Platinum sucks because it doesn't offer that much new content compared to Diamond and Pearl? I don't know. I really don't. I want to say no because Diamond and Pearl were already good on their own, but if you asked me to list at least 10 major differences between Diamond and Pearl and Platinum that weren't just cosmetic, I seriously don't know if I could. I'm gonna try in the video now. I'm recording this beforehand, so I won't know how far I get. I'm not gonna cheat. But with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, we, and by we I mean me and probably some other people, started to ask, why do we need to spend another $40 just to get a little bit more content? I'm sure that some people have been saying that since Yellow, but I think it's a quality drop in recent generations leading me to realize that now. Black and White 2 are exempt from this entire discussion, of course, because they're treated as continuations of this generation's timelines, with character growth, a completely different story. It's just different, okay? They aren't comparable. I'll post an in-depth review of these games within the next 5 years. I swear to God, I know I kiss a lot of ass when it comes to this game, just be patient with me, okay? But the point is, this model isn't working anymore. And continuing to do this now that these games are even more expensive is gonna cause problems. This is where I think the biggest virtue of the expansion pass comes in, because it means that we won't be getting Ultra Sword and Shield. Hopefully, fingers crossed. And DLC is a much better way of adding new content to the game and keeping it fresh. I mean, I already griped about how expensive Switch games are, and if I have to buy 2 of the same game just to get the Isle of Armor, Crown Tundra, and the new side story where Edonatus kidnaps Rose and I have to go back into the Ultra Wormhole, I'd probably be very unhappy with myself. But also rolling in YouTube revenue. Just kidding, I don't even know how to monetize my videos. I'm pretty sure I can at this point. But Pokemon DLC is the way of the future, honestly. I absolutely would not mind future games having similar expansion passes. And I would honestly encourage that, because it wasn't the execution that was wrong with this DLC. It was the fact that the precedent and expectations set by the game they're meant for were so poor. If we had this DLC attached to a good Pokemon game, I bet it would be really good, and people would be a lot more enthusiastic for it than they would be if they had to drop another $60 for the same game but not quite. But notice how I said that this would only be the case if the DLC was attached to good Pokemon games. I think in general Pokemon's business model needs to change entirely. Releasing a game every year or 2 years just doesn't feel right. The past 3 generations have felt really unpolished and rushed. These games need more time. Instead of releasing a new game every year or 2 years, maybe like every 2.5 minimum or some shit. That way they have more time to implement good features, polish the stuff that needs to be polished, and actually think things through. And we could have more similarly polished DLC on top of that. Make it less like Call of Duty and more like, I don't fucking know, Splatoon. I guess. Maybe not constantly releasing little bits of new content, but, you know, like this. And this. I'm not advocating for a finish it later approach, or whatever we had with Animal Crossing, hell no. Just give it time. Give it love. And it will be good, and people will enjoy it. Now, I will admit, I'm certainly not a game designer. Well, I mean, sort of. But I'm not about to act like my words will have any semblance of an impact on this multi-shatillion-dollar franchise. But the way to make these games not suck is to leave them in the oven for a while. We don't need a Pokemon game every other year. And I'm aware that they skipped 2020 technically to drop the expansion pass, but my biggest fear is that we're gonna get an Ultra Diamond and Ultra Pearl, I can't say that, fuck, Ultra Pearl trailer dropping 2 hours after this video with the November release date. I'm gonna speak for all the kids who grew up with Diamond and Pearl and say that none of us genuinely want to be alive anymore. And giving us shitty remakes? Please don't. I won't be able to take it. And in saying that, I'm aware that depending on how long this video takes me to make, it has the potential to age incredibly poorly. God fucking damn, please let these not be true. So, what's next? Either the CEO of Game Freak, James Freak, is gonna say, wow, everybody fucking hated Sword and Shield. We should fix these issues by polishing our game and putting in more content so we don't have to immediately rush a new one every year. Or he's going to say, it literally prints money. Get me another one this November. Now, I have no faith in anything that's worth this much money. So, unfortunately, I'm going with the second option here. But I know what I want, and I am fully prepared to be let down all over again. Seriously though, please fucking don't.